Well, the fires continue to rage in Southern California. People are losing homes, losing lives, and rather than coming together in sympathy and empathy, Fox News is trying to play the blame game.
You know, Trump back in 2020 was very critical of California for not enforcing rules to clear underbrush and make sure that the forest's floors were clean to stop these fires from spreading so rapidly. Why does this keep happening again and again?
Number one, this fire in Pali started in a residential area. That didn't have anything to do with the wildfires that we often do see that start in the national forest or in the what we call the urban-rural interface. We have a year-round fire season. Right now, we've got marginal rain the last few months. I think you can blame California on something, but other things, I don't want to say it's Mother Nature. I haven't looked at the total statistics for number of acres burned, but in a situation like this, as I said, when it starts in the middle of a community, you're going to have problems.
Thank you to that Fox reporter for clarifying to the anchorman that this fire in the Palisades is spreading in a residential area, and it was not related to clearing the brush in the forest.
But with this group, everything is dead. The automobile industry is dead. The water coming here is dead. And Gavin Newsom is going to sign those papers. And if he doesn't sign those papers, we won't give him money to put out all his fires. And if we don't give him the money to put out his fires, he's got problems. He's a lousy governor. And he treated me very nicely, and I treated him very nicely when I was president. But he's done a lousy job.
And that was Trump before the election saying that he would withhold money from California because he doesn't like Gavin Newsom.
That science is going to be key, because if we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay. It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Hey, well, I don't think science knows, actually.
And that was Trump during his presidency talking to some people that were experts on fires and saying, don't worry, it's going to cool down. And also science doesn't know. What?
And our new fire chief, has, and by the way, LA Fire Department is fantastic. The people, it's like the people who work for the federal government, so many of us are good people, but the people in charge, she took over and she put on her bio that her priority, my highest priority, is inclusion, diversity, and equity.
And there's MAGA actor James Woods blaming it on DEI. Okay, so let's step back for a second, analyze all of this. There is a major devastating situation happening right now in Southern California. People are losing their lives. They're losing their homes. They're constantly, fires are popping up in different places. Firefighters are overstretched. And rather than focusing right now on help and let's help the people and let's get through this, the right is trying to play the blame game. They've blamed DEI like James Woods just did right there. They've blamed Gavin Newsom. They've blamed Karen Bass. They blamed this fish, the Delta smelt. Have you heard of the Delta smelt? By the way, what a great name for a fish. He who dealt it, smelt it. They're blaming that fish. Donald Trump posted that the reason why there wasn't enough water in some of the tanks was because Gavin Newsom is trying to save the Delta smelt, and that doesn't allow enough water to come down to Southern California, which is not what the reason was. The reason was that the firefighting that was going on up top, up the hill, had taken so much water that they didn't have enough down below, and eventually the water came back. But even if the water had been there, the bigger issue of the Palisades fire the first night was that the winds were so strong that airplanes and helicopters couldn't fly over with water or anything else to support the firefighters. We saw in the Hollywood Hills fire that broke out on Wednesday night that they were able to go up there. Helicopters went up and they were able to contain that fire. But really, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of reasons why this is all being caused. But again, the right doesn't want to talk about the issues like climate change. The earth is getting warmer. You got to listen to science. And Trump says, don't worry, science doesn't know. No, they don't know. Don't worry about it. Let's just blame Gavin Newsom. So if Gavin Newsom were to not be in power and another governor were in power, would he just blame that guy? Like, he doesn't want to, they don't want to hear that it has anything to do with climate change. Because if they admit it has something to do with climate change, then they will have to spend money working on fighting the climate change, and they don't want to do that. They don't want to admit it. They want to be able to also have no regulations. The fewer regulations they have, the better for their businesses, and they can just crap all over the earth, Mother Earth, and that's what's going on with MAGA and some of those billionaires who are Trump folks. They're trying to blame Karen Bass. They said Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, they said she cut the budget of the fire department by something like $17 million out of like an $800 million budget. When in reality, that cut that came was actually supposed to be for training in 2025. So that cut is not directly related to what we're seeing right now. By the way, one could argue that there's a shortage of firefighters. We don't have enough, maybe, or maybe we don't have enough equipment necessarily. But then if we wanted to have more, then we would have to have the money for it. That's one of the problems that we face when you get the right criticizing these types of reactions. The question becomes, well, then let's have more money. And how do we get more money? We raise the taxes. Or we find other ways to allocate money from other departments to something like the fire department. And probably they're going to have to eventually, because these fires are becoming more and more prevalent. This is the biggest fire in California history, at least Southern California for sure. And it's just, it's horrible, it's sad, and we should be concentrating on supporting the victims right now. We should be concentrating on finding ways to raise money for the communities that need it, provide housing for those who need it, and getting through this. And then we could look and say, well, was Karen Bass she was on a trip to Ghana for the inauguration of the president there. Was that her going there before this? Was that something that was a cause and effect issue? Was that something that she should not have done? Let's criticize her if that's the case, but let's look at it, but let's get through this first. And that's the problem, is that they're trying to blame everyone and everything. The fact that James Woods said that it was DEI, simply because the fire chief has on her bio at the bottom that she wants to have inclusivity and diversity in the fire department, which is a good thing. But MAGA conservatives try to blame DEI because they're saying, see, they're giving it to incompetent people of color. They're giving it to incompetent women. That's what's happening, because firefighters, we all know, are only supposed to be white men. That's it, of course. And when they're white men, then there's no fire, right? It's also ridiculous. And as a matter of fact, seeing their reaction right now to these atrocious fires makes me excited to see Donald Trump actually try to govern this country, because things are going to come up. There's going to be challenges and tragedies and other things that happen. That's just what happens in the world. And we will see how he handles it, how they handle it. Don't forget, possibly one of the reasons why he lost the 2020 election was because of his mishandling of COVID. So he will mishandle things. When you're in power, when you're the person in charge, there will be mishandlings. And if it's done poorly by you, then you should pay the price. So what I'm saying right now is these guys are jumping to the blame game rather than having sympathy and empathy. Yes, let's find out what the cause was. A lot of the cause, you don't want to admit, MAGA, has to do with climate change. The winds were crazy. This is the highest winds we've had since 2011. It's dry. We haven't had rain in almost a year. So what do you expect is going to happen? So when you have climate issues like that, you're seeing climate problems all over the country, all over the world, and you just put your head in the sand and go, there's no climate change. Let's just keep drilling. Oil, drill, baby, drill. Let's just keep polluting the air, baby, pollute. Let's just keep doing whatever we want to do and deny and ignore the science. Then you end up in this situation. So my advice to all the MAGA people jumping on board right now with the blame game is give it a minute and then let's look at it. And there are many issues. And it's not the Delta smelt. He who dealt it, smelt it. I'm comedian Maz Jobrani. I live in Los Angeles, so I ask you, if you are inspired, please find an organization that you can donate to help those that are affected by this fire. And thank you for watching.